The divide between the U.S. and our strategic ally Israel seems to be widening under the Biden administration. On Friday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken stated that Israel's civilian housing settlements in the so-called West Bank violate international law.
It's been long-standing U.S. policy under Republican and Democratic administrations alike that new settlements are counterproductive to reaching an enduring peace. They're also inconsistent with international law.
Now, this totally reverses the policy of the Trump administration and that of former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Now, the question is, will Blinken announce next that they're going to move the embassy from Jerusalem? Joining me now to discuss this, David Friedman, who served as the U.S. ambassador to Israel during the Trump administration, where he was a part of the group responsible for the Abraham Accords and moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. He is the founder of the Friedman Center for Peace Through Strength and the author of the book Sledgehammer: How Breaking with the Past Brought Peace to the Middle East. Ambassador Friedman, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Always good to be with you.
So, Ambassador, your response to this Friday announcement?
Well, it hit me like a ton of bricks. First of all, what Secretary Blinken said is absolutely not true in two respects. First of all, he said, well, it's no big deal. Prior administrations have always said that the Jewish settlement in biblical Israel is inconsistent with international law. It's not true. It's not true at all. They're the first ones to say that. Now, there have been administrations in the past, Republican and Democrat, who said, they're not helpful, slow it down, maybe make things that are political in nature. But to say that they're illegal, okay, this is taking this to a whole nother level. What he's saying is that the Jewish people have no right to live in their biblical homeland, whether it's in Bethlehem, in Shiloh, in Bethel, in Hebron. All the most significant biblical sites. The places where God promised that to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that this would be their land. All those places are now, as according to Secretary Blinken, Judenrein, as Hitler used to say, devoid of Jews. So it really is just a gut punch, to those who, take a theological view to biblical Israel. That's number one. Number two, the idea that somehow, by taking this position, you're going to advance the cause of peace. Just the opposite. You pointed out our work on the Abraham Accords. Why were the Abraham Accords achieved? For two reasons. We were tough on Iran, right? And we were Israel's best friend. We supported Israel, and we imposed massive sanctions on Iran. That's the formula that caused all these countries in the Gulf to say, you know what? The United States is with us with regard to a common enemy. And Israel has become, under the Trump administration, a far more attractive and essential partner in our common goals. What Biden has done is he's reversed everything. He's taken it in the opposite direction. He's empowered Iran. He doesn't enforce sanctions on Iran. Iran, when we left office, was a poor country. Now Iran is a very wealthy country, spending all their money, to fund malign activity around the Middle East. And Biden's been nothing but difficult with Israel on some of the most important issues. He's trying to force Israel into this two-state solution, which nobody in Israel wants, which nobody with half a brain should want, where it's logically and politically.
Well, first off, I want to go back to what you said about, I like the term biblical Israel. People need to know, when you hear this term West Bank, we're talking about everything we read about in the Bible. As you said, Absolutely. Hebron, Shiloh, where the temple was for 369, or the tabernacle for 369 years. These are at the heart of biblical Israel. So that's the land we're talking about. But secondly, this two-state solution, which is already being talked about as the way forward, isn't that what we essentially had with Gaza? They were self-governing, and all they did was focus on how they could attack Israel.
Look, Gaza was the great experiment, if you will, to see if a two-state solution would work. Israel left completely. They abandoned Gaza. There's not one single Israeli, not one single Jew living in Gaza. Not only that, but Gaza was then, amplified with lots of funding, money to UNRWA, money to the PA, money through all kinds of sources from Qatar to help, Gaza become a prosperous place. And Hamas took all this money and put it into terror tunnels and bombs and rockets. And remember, Hamas was elected by the people of Gaza. They rejected the PA. they supported Hamas. And by the way, 80% of the Palestinians in the West Bank, or in Judea and Samaria, as I refer to it, more than 80%, applaud the attacks of October 7th by Hamas against innocent Israelis. So this idea that somehow you're going to take any portion of this land and restore it to control by Palestinians is just going to, it's going to replicate all the things that we're trying to get away from October 7th.
What Biden and Blinken are saying is, well, we know Hamas has to go. We want to eliminate terror, but we want to put the PA in control. But the PA is just hostility by another name.
The PA has a pension system. I know you know this, but for your listeners, the PA has a pension system where they award funds to terrorists, and they award it on a sliding scale based upon the severity of the terrorist attack. So the more Jews you kill or wound or maim, okay, the more money you get as a pension. And this goes on to this day. They are continuing to pay terrorists. Now, how could this organization possibly be a partner for peace when they provide from their funds, which are desperately needed for other purposes, when they provide their funds to terrorists to reward them based upon the severity of their crime?
And it should be noted that they have yet to denounce the October 7th attacks on Israel.
They have yet to denounce that. They have yet to accept the notion of living side by side with a Jewish state. And of course, again, I know you know this, but 72% of mandatory Palestine was given in 1947 to Jordan, whose population is a majority of which are Palestinians. So any Palestinian state would be a third or a fourth. Gaza and Judea and Samaria would be the third and the fourth Palestinian states over what was already created. Israel was only left with 28% of the land that was earmarked for the Jewish people back in the 1940s. So, look, this is theologically untenable. This is politically untenable. Right. From a security perspective, this is going to create another terror state and another October 7th. This is just a terrible idea on many fronts.
It would not even be kicking the can down the road, because we know exactly what's going to happen with this setup. They regroup and they attack again. Ambassador Friedman, we're out of time, but it's always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much, and God bless you.